You ever have one of those mornings where you're just fixing up your dad's old house, swinging a hammer, feeling the sunlight, and then, bam, someone in a crisp navy suit waltzes up like they own the place and tells you, "This house belongs to our HOA." Yeah, that happened. I was on my knees, prying up warped floorboards, when Diana Morrison just appeared in my doorway, folder under her arm, acting like she was the queen of Maple Street. She looked me dead in the eye and declared I owed $4,800 in HOA membership fees, plus $120 a month going forward. Right out of the gate, the absurdity hit me. My house sits a solid 52 feet outside their precious HOA boundary. You'd think anyone with Google Maps and half a clue could verify that in 5 minutes. But Diana? She radiated the kind of confidence you only get from years of bluffing your way through life. And let me tell you, I've spent 3 decades in property law, but I'd never had someone try to annex my family home with a smile and a clipboard. So there I was, sweat in my eyes, heart pounding louder than my hammer against those hardwoods, trying to process if I was being punked. I glanced over at the photograph I'd found hidden behind an old baseboard, my 8-year-old self, standing with Dad, back when the biggest drama on our street was who left their bike in the driveway. Those days felt a universal way. Now it's all infrastructure assessment fees and community compliance violations, like neighborliness had been replaced by paperwork and threats. When Diana strutted up to my door, her blonde hair was shellacked into submission, portfolio clutched tight. She rang the bell twice, knocked once, then started flipping documents across my porch table like she was dealing blackjack. Due to our recent boundary expansion initiative under the Community Development Act, your property falls under our jurisdiction, she said, handing me a map I could smell the fresh ink on. I scanned her paperwork, fake statutes, suspicious signatures, and a territorial map that had my property bulging into her control like a cartoon. I couldn't decide if I should laugh or call the cops. "Ma'am," I said, "this isn't even close to legal. You're citing laws that don't exist." She didn't blink. She just turned up the pressure. "Legal action is expensive and time-consuming, Mr. Harrison, but community standards must be maintained." Now, I've seen intimidation before, but this was almost art. Her words sounded neighborly, but her eyes were all business. She tried to wrap it up with, "Delays only complicate matters. Your renovation looks unapproved," which is another violation. That's when something inside me just clicked. Diana had done her homework, knew I was retired, alone, maybe figured I was easy pickings. What she didn't know was I made a career out of sniffing out fake authority, and I wasn't about to roll over now. "Tell you what," I said, "I'll review these with my attorney and get back to you." Her facade slipped, just for a second. "How did you know I was recently retired?" I asked. She stuttered something about neighborhood gossip, but I could see it. This was planned, not a casual compliance visit. After she left, I called the county recorder. Boundaries hadn't changed since 2018. If anything, the HOA had shrunk. I checked the Community Development Act. Turns out, it didn't exist outside Diana's head. Then I called Patricia Williams, the real HOA secretary, and learned Diana wasn't even on the board, let alone president. It got worse. Patricia told me 3 homeowners had already paid expansion fees, thinking they were legitimate. That's when the anger really settled in. Diana hadn't just tried to shake me down. She'd built a little cottage industry around forging documents, intimidating the vulnerable, seniors, new families, anyone who didn't know better. She even convinced one poor guy to sign over temporary property management rights. By the next morning, Patricia called in a panic. Diana had just filed fake bylaw amendments with forged board signatures, backdated to cover her tracks. She was going all in, desperate to manufacture retroactive authority. We went straight to the county recorder, challenged her amendments, and flagged her for fraud. Turns out, Diana had an inside track. She'd gotten herself hired as a community liaison at Meridian Property Services, the landscaping outfit contracted by 4 different HOAs in our area. That's how she'd pulled off such precise targeting. She had access to personal homeowner info, down to who was elderly or new in town. I spent the next week gathering evidence, presenting it all at an emergency HOA meeting. The room was packed. Everybody was there, from Mrs. Thompson, the widow who'd been bullied out of $3,200, to the Martinezes, who'd been tricked into signing phony management contracts. People gasped, muttered, even laughed in disbelief as I showed the forged maps, the fake statutes, the carefully coordinated intimidation. That's when Diana made her final, desperate move. She walked right into the meeting, dressed to kill, and tried to talk her way out. But her voice shook as 60 angry neighbors stared her down. Mrs. Thompson, bless her heart, stood up and called Diana out in front of everyone. The only criminal behavior I've seen is you taking my money under false pretenses. The whole room erupted. Diana stormed out, and that was it. Her control, gone. We handed over the evidence to the district attorney, who started peeling back the layers on what turned out to be a regional fraud network. Meridian Property Services was shut down, criminal charges flew left and right, and Diana herself got 4 years in federal prison, plus full restitution to every last victim. You know, there's a moment when you realize that what's at stake isn't just your home or your money. It's your whole sense of safety and community. Diana thought she could pit us against each other, intimidate us one by one. But all she did was bring us together. Folks who barely waved before started sharing information, checking on each other, learning the difference between real authority and a well-dressed lie. I finished Dad's porch with a new plaque, Harrison Family Home, established 1976, community protected 2023. Sometimes the best revenge isn't a lawsuit or a confrontation. It's neighbors coming together, refusing to be bullied, and proving that honest work outlasts every con job. Yeah, it escalated quick, but when you push people too far, you don't just get a fight. You get a community that won't be fooled again. So let me ask you, if someone came for your home with fake authority, would you fight back? Or would you let fear write your story for you? Drop your thoughts below. Tell me where you're watching from, and if you've ever tangled with a con artist in your own neighborhood. Because in the end, justice isn't just about the law. It's about ordinary folks standing up for what's right, together.